that sparks a short-lived burst of effort. It's the daily rhythm that shapes who you become, one choice at a time. If you've ever seen someone stick to a routine so faithfully that it seems effortless, it's likely because they've made consistency an internal practice, an ongoing pledge rather than a hit or miss tactic. Instead of waiting for the perfect mood, they rely on the power of a steady approach, knowing that what's done regularly outlasts what's done only when inspiration strikes. Motivation can surge, then fade, leaving you vulnerable to distractions or second guessing. But when consistency becomes woven into your day, it transcends fleeting emotion. You make the act of showing up a fixture, whether it's tackling a skill, prioritizing health, or pursuing a cherished goal. Over time, these small but repeated commitments transform into real progress. Each morning or evening, you reaffirm that the journey matters enough to be nurtured, not only when conditions are ideal, but when they're simply good enough for you to take action. This day-by-day formula replaces frantic spurts of work with a calm, methodical pattern. Picture laying bricks daily to construct a sturdy structure. That's the essence of consistent effort. Even if you place just one brick on an off day, you keep the plan moving forward. The beauty lies in how each modest success reinforces your belief in yourself, reminding you that goals need not be rushed. They can be built step by step, as long as you keep going. And when setbacks appear, it's easier to bounce back because you're not starting from zero. You've already established a pattern that reminds you of what's possible. Structure amplifies consistency, giving you a supportive routine rather than a vague intention. That routine anchors you, shielding you from the tug of hesitation or distraction. As this pattern evolves in second nature, you find yourself less reliant on bursts of willpower. Instead, you benefit from momentum, the steady push of having taken similar steps again and again. In the long run, this steadiness becomes the bedrock of real transformation, guiding you closer to the person you want to be. One day, one effort, one consistent choice at a time. Consistency can feel elusive when your enthusiasm surges for a few days, then fades into old habits and sporadic effort. Many wonder why it's so challenging to stay on track when a goal first seems so inspiring. Often people attempt enormous leaps in their routine or rely on a burst of motivation, only to find their plans unravel when life becomes hectic. The key to making consistency stick has less to do with grand resolutions and more to do with setting up small daily steps that become ingrained. There's a difference between wanting dramatic change immediately and building a lasting rhythm that continues under both bright and cloudy skies. Momentum begins the moment you decide that incremental progress beats the occasional sprint. A routine, even if modest, establishes a reliable anchor that keeps you from drifting when motivation wanes. The strength of this anchor lies in its simplicity. The clearer and more manageable your daily formula, the easier it is to repeat day after day. If your daily practice becomes overly complex, you risk turning it into a cumbersome task you dread rather than a sustainable ritual you can uphold. An effective day-by-day approach harnesses small wins. You might devote just 15 minutes to a skill or commit to a brief but focused workout. In isolation, these actions look tiny. Yet done continuously, they compound in surprising ways, not only by increasing your knowledge or fitness level, but by reinforcing the narrative that you are someone who shows up. That self-perception can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You keep acting consistently because your identity starts to revolve around reliability rather than sporadic bursts of determined activity. Timing also plays a role in making daily consistency smooth. If you schedule something at a point in the day when energy is low or distractions are high. It's more likely to be skipped or rushed. By observing your natural rhythms, you can select a window that matches the task's demands. Early morning for mental clarity, late afternoon for certain physical activities, or another time that aligns well with your lifestyle. Matching tasks to the proper time slot may seem trivial, but it helps prevent daily friction that wears down good intentions. Habits become anchors of continuity, yet they require deliberate setup. You can't expect a new routine to form without some initial push. Let's say you want to practice a musical instrument daily. Place it in a visible spot and consider linking the practice to an existing habit, right after breakfast or as soon as you get home from work. This pairing, sometimes called habit stacking, leverages an action you already perform reliably, which helps reduce the mental load of deciding when or whether to practice. Over time, the repeated sequence forms a mental connection, and it becomes odd not to practice once you finish that earlier activity. Consistency also benefits from a focus on process rather than outcome. Many people measure success only by whether they've reached a major milestone, neglecting the everyday steps that shape the final result. Yet the day-by-day formula is precisely about embracing the journey. You remove some of the pressure by reminding yourself that as long as you complete today's step, you're still moving in the right direction. This perspective makes it easier to handle setbacks, since your self-worth isn't tied exclusively to external markers. If you stayed true to your daily plan, you've succeeded in practicing consistency. Challenges inevitably arise, unforeseen events, dips in morale, or even second-guessing whether your chosen path is worthwhile. A major advantage of daily consistency is that it becomes an ally when the path feels uphill. You don't rely on waking up each morning with fresh zeal. You rely on a pattern that's already in motion. That pattern can act like a safety net, catching you on the days your spirit lags because you've minimized the decision-making required. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing it?" you remind yourself, "This is what I do." A day-by-day formula also makes room for incremental improvement. If you consistently work at something, you gather a rich record of small lessons, refining your approach faster than if you attack the issue sporadically. The continuous engagement allows you to spot errors quickly, notice patterns, and adjust your methods before wasted time accumulates. Imagine practicing writing a little every day. Over a month, you'll have 30 samples to review, test, and tweak, rather than one big session that's harder to dissect. The immediate feedback loop that comes from daily repetition fosters steady gains, an attribute of consistency often overlooked by those enamored with intense but short-lived efforts. As you settle into a stable pattern, you build confidence in your ability to adapt and stay focused. That confidence can then spill over into other areas of your life. Once you see it's possible to maintain regular exercise or daily reading, you realize you can apply the same disciplined approach to learning a new skill or reorganizing your finances. The underlying principle remains the same. Define a manageable routine, commit to it, and let the cumulative effect unfold. Some worry that this methodical approach might extinguish spontaneity or joy. But in reality, a consistent structure often frees you to savor unplanned moments more fully, because vital tasks aren't left floating in uncertainty. You know you've allocated time to your priorities, so if an unexpected opportunity for fun arises, you can indulge without guilt, secure that you won't derail your progress. This balance of planned action and open space fosters a sustainable pace, one where you neither burn out nor deprive yourself of life's pleasures. In essence, consistency thrives when supported by strategic planning, small daily targets, an awareness of natural energy cycles, and a focus on process over immediate results. If you take this approach, you shift from sporadic striving to a measured journey. Each day becomes another step in a purposeful dance, linking your present actions to a more accomplished and self-assured future. And with every repetition, you reinforce the idea that consistency isn't about perfection. It's about the daily promise you keep to yourself, inching closer to your goals with each deliberate choice. Long-term consistency also relies on a clear sense of why each task matters. Many routines fail because they're tied to superficial or hastily chosen goals that lose appeal once novelty wears off. When your deeper motivations remain fuzzy, it's easier to skip a practice session or push aside a daily commitment, especially if the payoff isn't immediately visible. But if you can link each small step to a bigger reason, improving well-being, mastering a craft, contributing to others, your mind begins to see that routine not as a chore, but as an investment in what you value. Honesty with yourself is a cornerstone. If you claim you're too busy, yet still find hours for idle diversions, it might mean you haven't genuinely locked onto a reason compelling enough to drive daily repetition. That doesn't make you lazy or unmotivated. It might signal that you need a clearer purpose behind the action. Reflecting on what outcome genuinely inspires you can illuminate whether you're attempting a goal that aligns with your core values, or whether you've latched onto something that feels lukewarm at best. Once you do have a genuine reason, the day-by-day consistency is less forced. It starts to feel like following through on a personal promise rather than fulfilling an obligation someone else suggested. A helpful tactic is to regularly ask, what does success look like at the end of today? Not in terms of massive leaps, but in terms of what meaningful progress would look like over the next few hours. The mind can get overwhelmed by large, distant outcomes, but tangible daily targets create a near-term focus that makes the act of consistency more tangible. If you're learning a language, success might be reviewing vocabulary for 10 minutes. If you're refining an artistic skill, it might be one focused sketch. Over a year, these quick hits accumulate into significant development, all because you consistently fed that skill daily nourishment. And it can also help to reduce your exposure to temptations that pull you away from your routine. If your goal is to write every evening, but the moment you sit down, you see numerous distractions in plain sight, consistency becomes a harder hill to climb. By managing your environment, maybe clearing the space or removing objects that lead you off track, you remove small obstacles that erode the will to stay consistent. The fewer mental negotiations you have to make, the smoother it is to slip into that daily formula. Mental dialogue can also shape your commitment. If you routinely tell yourself, I always quit, or I never finish what I start, you wire your brain to see inconsistency as inevitable. Consciously replacing those thoughts with, I'm someone who values daily growth, may feel awkward at first, but your self-talk holds power. Little by little, each affirmation nudges you toward acting like the person you describe yourself to be. It's not about pretending struggles don't exist. It's about choosing language that encourages you to follow through. Though consistency thrives on stable habits, it's wise to allow occasional flexibility. Life is unpredictable. Travel, unexpected commitments, or personal events will sometimes disrupt your schedule. A rigid plan that breaks down at the first sign of trouble isn't ideal. Instead, you can form contingency plans. If you can't do your full routine, you do a shorter, modified version. This tactic preserves a sense of forward motion, ensuring you don't completely abandon the habit, but adjust it to fit the day's circumstances. That flexibility keeps you from an all-or-nothing mindset, where one missed day becomes an excuse to quit altogether. Progress tracking can amplify the consistency cycle. Recording each completed session or daily target, even with just a simple mark on a calendar, sends a small jolt of satisfaction. This record also exposes patterns. Maybe you're consistent every weekday, but often skip on weekends, or you notice a dip at certain times of the month. That awareness can highlight areas for fine-tuning. Furthermore, seeing a string of successful days lined up can create a mental barrier to breaking your streak. You think, I've come this far, let me keep it going, which is a subtle but effective motivator to show up once again. A day-by-day formula isn't about static repetition either. You're allowed to evolve your routine as you learn what works best, or as your goals shift. The central idea is to maintain a consistent heartbeat of activity rather than randomly changing things without reason. This approach fosters a blend of stability and adaptability. You keep the commitment to daily progress, but remain open to refining how that daily progress is achieved. Over time, this synergy encourages both growth and staying power, offering a balance that purely rigid or purely casual strategies rarely achieve. It's worth remembering that consistency doesn't erase hard work, it channels it. You're still putting in effort, but in more regular and digestible chunks, reducing the likelihood of burnout. This is why many who follow a daily formula say it's liberating rather than limiting. They no longer cycle between extremes of intense push and long lulls. Instead, they allow a natural cycle of action and rest, trusting the incremental gains to accumulate. And that trust is the essence. You trust the process, trust the compounding effect of small actions, and trust yourself enough to believe you're capable of showing up consistently. Comparisons often arise when you see someone consistently achieving milestones while you struggle to find that daily spark. It may be tempting to assume they possess an innate drive or a level of discipline you simply don't have. In reality, what sets them apart is rarely extraordinary willpower. It's that they've mastered the practice of aligning each day's small actions with a broader direction. This sense of alignment bridges the gap between daily routines and higher ambitions. Whenever the mind questions, why bother doing this today? The answer's already woven into that personal map, guiding them toward a deeply valued objective. Resisting distractions is another core element. Even decades ago, temptations existed, like idle conversations, daydreaming, or aimless wandering. Each generation faces its own forms of diversion, whether it's the latest social event, an endlessly entertaining show, or a personal hobby that starts overshadowing primary goals. Consistency means acknowledging these diversions, but choosing your primary task at the appointed time, rather than letting the day slip away. This skill isn't about self-denial. It's about deciding which activities deserve priority in each moment. Those who master this art gradually notice that it becomes second nature to steer themselves back on course whenever they begin to drift. An often overlooked aspect of consistency is how it naturally builds patience. When you operate on a day-by-day formula, you come to terms with the idea that worthwhile results seldom materialize instantly. Each incremental action is a vote for the future you want, like casting a ballot every day in favor of your long-term vision. This shift in mindset helps combat the restless urge to measure progress prematurely or abandon the effort if immediate gains aren't visible. Patience honed through consistent practice allows you to ride out periods when progress feels slow or invisible, trusting that these small acts accumulate in meaningful ways. Celebrating incremental milestones prevents your routine from becoming a dull grind. If you're learning a new language, a weekly nod to how many words you've mastered can invigorate your drive. If you're writing daily, the day you complete a certain number of pages might call for a small personal reward, a walk outside, a chat with a friend, or a relaxing pastime. These mini celebrations aren't just nice extras. They serve as psychological markers that reinforce the habit. They remind you that you're making tangible strides, giving you emotional fuel to keep repeating the process day after day. Examining who you spend time with also shapes your consistency. Engaging frequently with people who share a similar aspiration or who appreciate consistent effort can spark mutual encouragement. Accountability becomes more natural when a colleague or friend checks in, or when you share experiences and tips with someone on the same journey. On the other hand, surrounding yourself with people who continually dismiss your routines or coax you into lazy detours can subtly undermine your diligence. Being mindful of these social influences isn't about cutting ties with those who don't share your goals. It's about reinforcing your environment with at least a few supportive voices that nudge you towards steady practice rather than sporadic bursts. Adapting to life changes is another phase where a day-by-day approach excels. Rigid plans that never accommodate shifting work schedules, family matters, or personal obstacles tend to collapse. But if your method is flexible, focusing on the principle of daily effort rather than a single unchangeable routine, you can make minor adjustments in response to circumstances without losing the core habit. Perhaps your usual morning slot isn't possible for a month due to travel or extra duties. With the right mindset, you shift your practice to evenings or another slice of time. The consistency resides in the fact you still honor your daily pledge, though the exact form or timing might have altered slightly. Reflecting on progress at regular intervals crystallizes learning. A monthly or quarterly review, for example, can help you see patterns. Are you consistently meeting your daily marks? Do you feel stagnation in certain areas? Such reflection not only keeps the routine from becoming mindless repetition, but also informs you of when and where to push a bit harder or shift tactics. Building reflection into your cycle ensures that consistency doesn't turn into stale autopilot, but remains a living process where you adapt to your evolving goals and experiences. Mindset around failure is also critical. Missing one day or falling short of a target isn't a verdict on your capacity for consistency. It's a nudge to return the following day. If you skip a planned session or find yourself giving a half-hearted effort, the daily formula still holds. You only need to resume the next day. By viewing occasional slip-ups as temporary deviations rather than catastrophes, you maintain your momentum. This viewpoint guards against the common trap of letting one stumble, unravel all your prior progress. Establishing a system for external accountability can fortify your personal resolve. Maybe you share your goals with a mentor, or keep a mutual check-in arrangement with a friend pursuing similar ends. The knowledge that someone else is aware of your commitment encourages you to honor it daily. Though intrinsic motivation is powerful, external support can add a layer of commitment that helps sustain the routine when you're feeling less motivated from within. Over time, the combination of personal drive and social reinforcement raises the likelihood that consistency becomes second nature rather than an uphill battle. Consistency can also be nurtured by cultivating a flexible yet respectful relationship with your own limitations. Each person has different energy cycles, responsibilities, and personal challenges to navigate. Rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all routine that might clash with your natural rhythms, it often serves you better to adapt your plan so it feels supportive instead of punishing. If you find that early mornings leave you groggy, forcing a pre-dawn practice could drain motivation within a week, whereas a lunchtime or early evening slot might integrate more smoothly into your life. The crucial principle is the daily act itself, not the hour on the clock. So, choosing a schedule aligned with your biological and situational realities, increases the odds you'll keep showing up. A common stumbling block arises from idealistic notions about how the routine should look. You may picture a perfect setting, ample time, total peace, unwavering focus, only to discover your day rarely unfolds with such precision. Life can be messy, chores beckon, errands pop up, or your emotions fluctuate. If you're rigidly attached to that dream scenario, the first sign of chaos can derail your plan. On the other hand, a more resilient attitude says, even if conditions aren't perfect, I'll complete a scaled-back version of my practice. Maybe that means drafting a rough outline when you'd hope for a fully polished draft, or doing a shorter workout when extra things consume your evening. These small compromises keep momentum alive. Consistency finds strength in flexibility, absorbing life's jolts rather than letting them fracture your commitment. A day-by-day formula also benefits from the mental technique of visualizing success before beginning. When you take a moment, just seconds really, to picture how you'll feel upon completing today's action, it bolsters motivation. You might imagine the sense of accomplishment from finishing those pages or the physical relief after a calming exercise. Even if your day is hectic, this brief visualization bridges the gap between intention and action. Sometimes we hesitate to start because the mind amplifies the effort, forgetting the reward. But consistently pairing a mental image of the result with the action makes it easier to slip into the routine, as you're reminded of the payoff at the end. Repeated over weeks, this small mental rehearsal can become a potent trigger, urging you to begin your daily practice. Alongside visualization, setting micro-challenges within your larger routine can spark renewed engagement. If you're writing every day, you could challenge yourself to write a certain number of words more than yesterday. Or if you're practicing a musical instrument daily, you might aim to improve one tricky passage each session. These mini goals create pockets of excitement within the steady rhythm, infusing your repetition with an element of discovery. They can also clarify exactly what you aim to accomplish each time, removing ambiguity that sometimes dulls motivation. In the long run, these small innovations keep your practice from falling into a mechanical grind. Each day remains a meaningful contribution to your evolution, rather than a rote task to check off. The social dimension cannot be overlooked. While a strong internal drive is crucial, sometimes the spark to remain consistent emerges or is reinforced by the people around us. Family members, friends, or a local community can encourage you to maintain your daily actions, whether by asking about your progress or simply lending moral support when determination wavers. Some set up accountability partnerships. You share your daily goal with someone and report back, and they do the same. This mutual exchange of updates can fuel diligence, as you don't want to let your partner down or face explaining why you skipped out without good cause. Over time, this support system transforms your routine from an isolated struggle into a communal experience, one that feels shared and affirmed. Persistence and consistency is also linked to self-compassion. It's easy to slip into harsh self-criticism if you miss a day or if you don't see immediate results. Negative self-talk can become a spiral that undermines the will to continue. Cultivating a kinder inner dialogue does not mean making excuses. It means acknowledging that life has its ups and downs, and that improvement is a process. If you slip, you reflect on why it happened, adjust if necessary, and recommit to tomorrow. Ironically, being gentle with yourself in these moments often fuels longer-term consistency because you're less inclined to throw in the towel at the first sign of imperfection. Even in times of doubt, when you question whether your daily tasks lead anywhere tangible, the habit of consistency can ground you. You might not always see progress day to day, like watching a plant that seems to grow at an invisible pace. Yet, just as the roots of that plant spread unseen beneath the surface, your consistent actions lay a foundation of skill, understanding, and resilience.